So many moms feel stuck and isolated, like they've got to keep it all together and can't say how hard it really is. On Let's Get Real, we talk about the real stuff, motherhood, mental health, and everything in between, so you don't feel like you have to carry it alone anymore. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. If you're feeling overwhelmed, grab the Overwhelmed Moms Guide. It's totally free and made to help you feel like yourself again. The link is in the show notes. Let's jump in. What if the loudest noise in your life isn't outside, it's inside your head? For so many of us as moms, the constant mental chatter feels like a second full-time job. What's for dinner? Did I send that email? Am I failing my kids? Phyllis Coletta says our minds are like untrained puppies, barking, running wild, and exhausting us. But the good news, just like a puppy, our minds can actually be trained with love, consistency, and simple tools. Phyllis Coletta is a former litigation attorney and single mom of 3 boys who discovered a way to bring peace into her chaotic mind. She's the author of How to Be a Good Dog, Learning to Sit, Stay, and Heal, where she uses humor, stories, and science to make meditation simple, practical, and actually doable. Far from the woo-woo world, Phyllis shows you that you don't need robes, mantras, or gurus to find peace. You just need a process that works for real life. Phyllis, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with how we can quiet our minds and using meditation and what this can look like in motherhood. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jenna. I am really happy to be here with you and your people.
Yeah, thank you. Well, before we really dive into the nitty-gritty of meditation and your view on this and your approach, I would really love it if you could share what your life looked like before you discovered this way of calming your mind and why you became so passionate about helping other women with it.
So I describe my life as Mach 4 with my hair on fire all the time. I was just revving my engines constantly. Or we could use like the scorched earth policy. I was just a high energy ball of anxiety. And you know how sometimes when you're super scared, you overcompensate and just become aggressive? That was me. And that's why the analogy with like the dog thing works so well, because the little dogs are always the most, they tend to bark louder. And that was kind of me, like a chihuahua. So I came to a crossroads in my early 40s where my 3 boys, right? Single mom, 3 boys, Jersey Shore, put all that together. 3, that's a lot of chaos. And me I am an Italian attorney from Philly. So put that together. That's like the trifecta of anger, right? So I have this high energy Italian personality working in a field where there's a lot of male aggression. And then I'm coming home to these kids and I didn't have much money. I wasn't, contrary to what people think, when you're on the mommy track, that's what we called it back then. I'm pretty sure the mommy track still exists, even if we pretend that it doesn't. But if you're on it, you just don't make a lot of money. I made about what a teacher made. So there was all kinds of anxiety all the time. And I was on my own. And by my early 40s, I was like, what am I going to do with this constant chaos in my head? And that reflects on the outside as well, too. So, I tell folks it was either like booze or Buddhism. Which way are we going to go here?
So you came to the turning point where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I can't keep living like this. Mm-hmm. So internally, did it just feel like you were spinning and just this degree of overwhelm and it's a never ending to do? Yes. I don't know.
It's all that. And these 3 little human beings that I'm responsible for. And by 42, I had been married and divorced twice. So it wasn't working out on the man front very well. And I didn't really realize what it was inside of me that was creating these situations. So and I was healthy and strong, but I always felt like this low level, anxiety all the time.
Yes.
And that's a hard feeling to live with. I kind of got sick of myself. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's neat that you were like, I am going to find another way.
Right.
I will find this. This isn't my only option.
Right.
Which I think for a lot of people, you can believe this is it. And this is, you feel the chaos. And so it is interesting to wake up one day and realize not only I can't keep doing this, but I will not. I won't. And
Right.
I have to find a better way.
Right.
So I love your approach and the book, which we'll get to talk about more, which describes your approach to meditation. So one of the things that you say is you compare our minds to puppies. Why would you say that's a helpful way to understand what's going on in our heads?
Because meditation has been obscured by all this mystery. It's so unapproachable. It's such an amazing tool. And then yet the culture sort of has layered all these rules on it. And, every time you see an image of somebody meditating, it's a skinny woman sitting on a mountain with her midriff showing. Like, what is that? That's not real.
Yeah.
I was a young mom with like a belly roll and a lot of bills. And like, I looked at these women. I can't do that. I'm not holy. I'm not quiet. And then you step into the meditation sort of spaces, either online or in person. And, it just like, put your legs like this and do that. And it just felt very restrictive, mantras and mudras and chanting and the things that are what I would call woo-woo, and that's a little bit of a derogatory. So I needed a way. I mean, I lived with that and I did that far longer than I had to. So, all right, there's a little bit of a story, but it's a good one. Maybe 2 years ago or something, I woke up one day and I had a brain bleed. I was working full time. I was a professional writer. Out of nowhere, I have this brain bleed. Anyway, all things worked out fine. Obviously, I'm fine, but it debilitated me for about 6 months. And I used to talk to my daughter-in-law who lived in Colorado at the time, 32, 2 kids, just coming through the pandemic. Like, wow, what a shite show her life had become, right? And her biggest fear was damaging her kids. She was becoming her mother and doing exactly the things she never wanted to do in the terms of how she was relating to her. So she pulled over on the side of the road. It's snowing in Colorado and we talked for like an hour. And I was like, and she said to me, Dukes, that's my nickname, Grandma Dukes. She said, Dukes, I can't stop my mind. It goes all the time. I hate it. And I thought, it's so sad to hate your own mind, right?
Yeah.
Because it's your greatest ally, just like a well-trained dog, right? Your greatest ally and companion. So I started talking to her about focusing on training her mind. And it sounds a little overwhelming, but if you distill it to this paradigm of training your mind like you would a puppy, it's very accessible. It's fun and it's loving. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You love a puppy, they're a pain in the neck and they are totally destructive, just like your mind, but we don't hate the puppy. So if we can approach ourselves and training our mind with the same kind of love as we would training a puppy, then we're already at a good baseline. And then just follow sort of how you would train a puppy. Forget all the rules and regulations that you're told by the spiritual people. In some ways, I don't know, this is a little provocative, but it's almost like they want you coming back for more to buy what they're selling. But really, they're selling water by the river, man. Anybody can do this. It's free and you just need some basics and you don't really need to cling to somebody else to teach you or to have a meditation practice. So that's where it started. And the idea came to me when I was teaching in Seattle just before the pandemic, 2018. I was teaching in an alternative school for kids in recovery from addiction. And, teenagers, their minds are insane to begin with. And let alone if you're trying to be in recovery. Can you imagine what these
No. Oh my gosh, it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I just love teenagers, right? And one of the things that I wish I had been better prepared for when my kids were teenagers, and we can talk a little bit about that, because if I'd had some kind of basic concept about regulating my own emotions, I wouldn't have just been this screaming crazy lady at the Jersey Shore while they were in their teenage years. But anyway, with these kids, believe it or not, teenage kids love to meditate. They love somebody to say, how about we just be quiet for a minute? In a formal context. They like the idea. So when I was a teacher, after being a lawyer, I was a teacher, I would ring a little bell and we would just sit still for a minute and they wouldn't look at their phones. They loved it. So these kids, I said, because they were a little more antsy and irritable, I said, well, just think about your mind like a puppy and you want to train it, but tell me what breed it is. And this one kid was gnarly, like an old curmudgeon kind of a guy. And he's like, I'm a German Shepherd, So depending on how you see yourself, that's going to be reflected in the breed of dog that you think you are. And we took it from there. Me and these kids, we started mind training as if we were puppy training. And they loved that too. So that's how it came to pass.
That. Well, I really like this analogy of a puppy and training, because too often I think that it's very common, right, for us to beat ourselves up and then to even see our minds as our enemy. And they really can work against us when we let our mind just go wild and believing every thought and going down every rabbit trail. But when we can even see ourselves, and I love what he did, like I'm a German Shepherd, or seeing yourself as a particular dog, it really can help soften the way that we approach ourselves and the way that we talk to ourselves. Instead of, almost in a way, most of us would be appalled if we ever saw someone beating their dog, right? But then how often do we treat ourselves like that?
Right.
And so being able to see us, and it's almost like a way to have some distance and to allow ourselves to practice having more self-compassion,
right?
Which then our brain will respond to so much better.
Exactly.
So I just love this analogy. And like you said, and the other thought that I was having when you're talking about your daughter-in-law and even your own story of anxiety, because that is something that I've majorly struggled with. And especially post kids, it's like my anxiety went through the roof. And so this is something that's such a practical way to interrupt those anxious thoughts.
Right.
So it's a way to incorporate something, and we can choose to do this. And it doesn't have to look like having 30 minutes or like escaping to a retreat or going to, the top of a mountain. It doesn't have to look like that. It's just these small practices, which I'm excited to dive into more, to really help calm our mind, interrupt the anxiety, and be like, okay, we can practice having more moments of calm than having the day be so chaotic and anxious, which I really love. So many things that you've said, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah, it's amazing how once I really dove into it, while I was recovering from my brain bleed, after I talked to Kai, I was like, I should write a book about this, and that's how that came about, because I had the time, and once my brain had healed, I could read and write and do the things again. I was like, this is how I'm going to spend my time on disability. And that's how the book came.
Wow.
Yeah, but it tracks so perfectly, Jenna, like the dog training, as we'll go through it, you'll see. And in the book, and I used a lot of Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, and I did a lot of research on canine science, and it's amazing what we can learn from how we train our dogs. And if you don't train your dog, it's chaos, right? The doorbell rings and they start the rodeo, or, you got some puppy shredding everything, and it's chaos if they're untrained. And I think the world right now is like a chaotic bunch of untrained puppies, right? There's so much chaos in the world. We need well-trained minds, but it's got to start with ourselves in our homes. And then it can go, out to the neighborhood, the community, the workplace, the world. But if we're not peaceful, how can we possibly expect the world to be peaceful? So, start small.
Yes.
Yep.
It's so good because the thought that we can actually train our minds, that is such a huge gift, because for myself, my entire life, it wasn't until my 20s, my mid 20s, that I first learned I don't have to believe every thought that comes into my head, which sounds ridiculous, but that's truly, I was never taught this.
Right.
And so it was such an epiphany to realize there's something I could do to really like you said, to train my mind, to decide what I will think about and believe. It was completely foreign. I literally was like, what are you talking about? So because of that, I lived in perpetual anxiety and then got super, super depressed. And so when someone finally came in to help me and teach me this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. And then we can actually teach this to our kids. But we, just like you were saying, if we don't do this for ourselves first, our kids don't even have a chance, because we'll be trying to teach them, but it's not in us. We won't be modeling it for us. We won't even be able to, and really be able to teach them in the way that's most effective. So yes, I love this.
The single most important thing you can teach your kids is emotional regulation. right? So that they're not losing
Yes.
their stuff all the time as they grow older. But if we're not emotionally regulated, and that's the point of meditation. Yes, calm and peace, and we can get to that really easily and quickly in your everyday life. And once you are able to sit still for say 5 minutes, you can start examining your mind. The thoughts are going to be there. There's no way to not think. People think it's about not thinking. Good luck. You're never going to not think. But you just have to take a step back. Nobody taught me in my 20s. I had this internal monologue that was just resentment and anger and debasing myself. Oh, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? Why didn't you say this? The constant noise in your head. Nobody told me to not listen to that. It was fake news. It's always fake news. We just have to learn how to take a step back from it. Like the alpha dog in a pack, right? The alpha dog, you have like two minds. The chihuahua, endless chatter. And then we don't know this, but we have a quiet, wise self, a still quiet leader, which is our alpha dog. All we got to do is create that little space between the chihuahua and the alpha. And the alpha dog is not about aggression or dominance. There's actually more science on this now in terms of canines. It's more about like a quiet, strong leadership that makes them feel safe. It makes the pack feel safe because it's a wisdom dog. The dog knows what's up. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It will teach you when you need to be taught. But if we can tune in more to the quiet than to the chatter, then life starts to change. That's the goal.
Right, which is so good. And that's where this comes in. It's creating enough quiet to access that wise alpha dog that all of us have.
Yes.
But it's the thing that gets the most attention is the loud barking chihuahua.
Exactly.
So can you give an example, like, you know, as a mom with 3 boys and thinking back to when they were younger, what this might look like as far as the constant chatter in a mom's brain, and then what could happen in that moment and what it looks like to bring in meditation to create some calm and interrupt the chaos happening?
Oh, sure. Because one thing I did do, I know I did a lot of things that I wish I hadn't as a parent. We all will. We all do. Our parents did too. But I committed to myself that I would be present to my little ones. And that means not judging them or teaching them lessons, just to like play with them as much as I could, be down on the floor. I also committed to very low standards in my house. I don't, I'm not going to do everything. So I sort of approached motherhood, even though I was working part-time as an attorney. When I was with those kids, I was with them. And so what if they wore the same pants 8 days in a row? I don't care. If I put them to bed alive, I was mother of the year. Like I just lowered my standards and enjoyed the moments with them. But when the chaos, you can find ways in the midst of all that. It's bound to be chaotic. With 3 of them, one of them has a meltdown. Now what? And one of them is pooping in his pants, and you got all that stuff going on all day long. Yeah. The simplest act, everybody knows this, just the deep breath, right? The stop and the deep breath. And I call it the PAWS, the power of the pause. Just pause. Just stop. It's okay. Everybody has 10 seconds. No matter how busy you feel. 10 seconds is kind of a long time. If we stop talking for 10 seconds right now, people will get a little uncomfortable. But it's enough time to stop and breathe for 10 seconds. And that's a good inhale through the nose and a slower exhale out. And that's it. And then just let that shift where you are. And to embrace the chaos, because I was never like a domestic goddess. I couldn't cook very well. The house was always kind of a mess. And I was just trying to keep body and soul together. And I was okay with that. I wasn't trying to perform for other people. I think that's a thought that unconsciously a lot of young mothers have, is that they are performing for others, right? You got to drop that script. That would be the first thought I would tell my 20-year-old self or my 24-year-old self when I had my first son. This is not about your parents, your mother, your mother-in-law, or the neighbors or anybody else. This is about you and this child. That's it. So be you, boo, and don't worry about what other people are thinking. It's hard to do, but so those are the kind of preliminaries, right? To finding peace as your mother, using mind training and stillness and quiet. And in the book, I call this building your crate, because you know how dogs, a lot of them really love the crate. because it's a place they can go that's safe. And if you leave the door open, a lot of the dogs will just go in during the day and lie in their crates. It's not a punishment for them. So you have to build an environment in your head, like an internal crate, where you know you can find peace. And it's not for any length of time. We're not worried about sitting for 20 minutes or something like that. We just want to go to a still, quiet place where we can breathe and try again. Whatever it is. I mean, and in meditation too, you're going to find when you get into a practice that your mind's going to spin off all the time. I don't sit quietly. I've been meditating for 15 years and I still go off on these little tangents, but at least I know they're there. I let it in, I let it out, and I'm like, I begin again. That's all. Just begin again. It's so simple and it's not punitive. I no longer punish myself when I can't do stuff. I'm just like, yes, I can't do it. And yeah, a little puppy, an untrained puppy is hilarious and adorable. Keep that in mind. Keep your sense of humor as you get through all this stuff. The kids are so cute. I mean, they just really are amazing when they're, and then they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Here, the teenage years are a bit rough, but yeah, I really like that though, because it's a reset. It's like this. And I think, I know for myself as a recovering perfectionist, where my typical thought is like my standards are insanely unrealistic, right? So it's almost expecting, now that I know this and I have the tools and I do it, then I should be able to like never feel upset or never feel angry or like snap at my kids. But it's like the reality is that's still going to happen. Right. This is something that can help to shorten this. It's more of like catching it where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now and I'm about to lose it. So here is something I can do to help me interrupt this so I don't get to that place.
Right.
And it's normal to feel this. It's okay. And just thinking of those puppies in training where it's like, we don't expect perfection from them, but we see the progress and we see them continuing to grow and get better. And so that's kind of how it is for us. It's just this realization, like I am human. I'm going to feel this stuff. However, now I have something that I can choose to do instead of feeling run by these tiny people who are pushing every single button I have.
Right. Jen, and the awareness is everything. That's huge. Just the fact that you're aware that I'm getting to that point. Oh, I'm a pot that's about to boil over. So, and meditation, or the concept of meditation, gets us into the habit of paying attention to our mind. Right?
So good.
That's all it is. Paying attention to the mind. And you could be like, oh, that's my mother talking. That's my neighbor. Just go let that go. And we'll talk about this when we talk about the actual steps of training. But when the corrosive negative thoughts come in, it's like when a dog is about to eat a piece of garbage. Like you say, stop. No, that's going to hurt you. That's what you'll do to the dog. You say, leave it. And I can't tell you how many times a day I still say, leave it, Phyllis. When I hear something coming in that's negative, judgmental about myself or anybody else, leave it. No, just no. There's no Sanskrit. There's no mantras. You don't have to chant. You just have to say, no, I'm in control of my mind. And so, the analogy is like, the book is called How to Be a Good Dog, Learning to Sit, Stay, and Heal, Heal. But with the Heel, it's a very discrete skill teaching a dog to heal. You don't see many people who have dogs that walk beside them, right? Really well. It's a tough one. But if dogs don't heal, they're unchecked emotions. They drag you all over the place. So an unhealed dog, you're on that leash. You see the dog walking the person down the person's being walked by the emotion, by the dog that's not trained. But you can reel it in and put your emotions right beside you, and they can walk with you. They not drag you all over the place. So that's the goal.
I love that. And this is all part of this befriending, I feel like, of learning to have train our minds to work for us instead of against us.
Yep.
And realizing, again, I don't know, I just keep coming back to, because I really did let my feelings run the show, right? I would be just so terrified of, for example, feeling depressed. I mean, oh my gosh, if I feel depressed, it's going to take me down and out. And I would let it. I had no clue that I had a say,
Mm-hmm.
and I could challenge this. And there was such a thing. A lot of the stuff I was believing were lies. And I could find a way to really not let the emotions drive the bus,
Right.
but where I get to still remain the driver, and they're coming along for the ride. They just don't get to dictate where I go.
Exactly.
And it is a process. So I would love it if you could explain a little bit more, practically speaking, what this looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
even just starting out, right? And starting out and doing this, what could this look like very practically, and practicing, calming our mind, meditating, and just like what kind of, I don't know, tangibly. So someone's like, oh, okay, I see this, I hear it, I could do this
Right.
today.
Nice. The concept of a young mother having 10 minutes of silence is really probably not reachable, right? So we don't want to set ourselves up for failure, but you may have 2 minutes of silence at some point in the day. If the baby's down for a nap or the young ones are in preschool, whatever, you might have 2 minutes a day of quiet. And often, unfortunately, what we do is go right on our phones and start scrolling, right? We put that addiction in. So you have to replace the habit. So learning to meditate is about creating good habits for your mind. It's so funny. We'll go to the gym and train our bodies like crazy. We have time for that. We have to make time to train the mind. But believe me, I understand raising 3 kids by myself, 3 boys at the Jersey Shore. Time is valuable. But when it's there, you gotta grab it. So there's 2 ways of kind of starting out. One is just learning to sit. That's the first thing we teach a dog, the puppies, because that makes them just stop the madness, right? And even when you try to make them sit, you can see them sometimes they're hovering their little butts. They want to get up right away. You got to sit. So if you can actually physically sit down for a minute without any devices on, that is a win. That's a win. Just sit down without any devices, cross-legged on the floor if you can, just to feel like connected to something. But if you need to sit in a chair, that's fine. And breathe. Just take a deep breath. If you can do that much twice a day, 3 times a day as a young mother, you are going to start to feel a difference in your life. This is what I noticed when I started just carving out a little bit of silence in my life, was that my life was better when I did it and got chaotic when I didn't. So I actually noticed the difference because, right, your inside is reflected on the outside. So everything you see, if you have a peaceful life, it's because you have a mind that has put peace as a priority. And right now, we don't even have time to set a priority, right? The chaos in a young family's life is just ever present. But you can address that eventually. What you actually do have is 30 seconds to be quiet. And if not, if you're up and around all the time and moving, you can, like you said, just start by interrupting the thoughts. Make it, hear them. And when you actually sit and start to meditate, the thoughts start right away. But it's almost like a sitcom. What is going on in here? It's like funny.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I've been listening to this for all my life.
Yes.
But, if you don't have that time, in order to break where the train is headed, right? You got a runaway train of emotion, whether it's your kid who's freaking out or you're just ready to scream your head off or cry or whatever. You can take that deep breath. Humor for me works really well. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Savannah Bananas, but they're this baseball team.
I love them.
They dance. These hot guys dancing while they're playing baseball is like the most fabulous thing. And they're hilarious.
It is.
So I can even just say to myself, Savannah Bananas. I can think of something that makes me laugh. And another thing, any use of your senses is going to stop the train. Okay. So I'm sure you know, as a therapist and a coach, the 5 senses, that's how you ground people if they're having a panic attack or whatever.
Yes.
But if you're in the midst of a young mother situation, turn on a little music and dance with those kids. Interrupt. That's what I used to do as a high school teacher. When I could feel the energy in the room getting out of control, I would just flash a picture of myself as a kindergartner. I had like crossed eyes and the kids would be like, okay, let's stop that. We got to do something to stop it. And so a little music, a little dance, a little humor, some breathing. If you shift, the problem of being a mom is that your emotions rule the roost. I don't care what anybody says. The father, of course, is really important and a figure in the household. But it seems to me the whole family's emotional health rises and falls with the mom. So the best thing you can do for your children is to get yourself some peace, calm yourself down, regulate the anger and sadness, which to me are the two most prominent things I remember about trying to raise until you can. And if you can find a minute to sit and actually stay for a minute. And I wouldn't work with more than a minute or two. And I turn my phone on airplane and just set a timer. If you can find a space to do that. And then when you're up and around, then you are still aware of your mind. And when the thoughts come in like a dog going for a piece of garbage, you got to say, leave it. I'm not doing it. And then things evolve. Just take it in small chunks. Because we tend to jump in, oh, these supplements, this new diet, this thing I have to do. We jump into all this consumer culture about improving ourselves. And really, you got to do it really in small little bites, right? Just a little biscuit here and there for the dog, right? As a reward. And the peace will become your reward eventually.
Right. And as soon as you taste peace, when you have experienced so much chaos and anxiety, it's almost addicting. You're like, this is, first of all, it's possible, and I want more.
Yes.
And what I hear you saying, it really doesn't take much.
Right.
It's 1 to 2 minutes. It's really not much time.
Right.
And too often we don't realize we actually do have that time, but we're using it to escape or use it even through a device, which actually oftentimes feeds more anxiety.
Yes.
So this is something in the past, it's been almost 2 years now, but I've been really intentional to apply this, meditating, and learn more about it, which is why I wanted to bring you on, because it's been just so impactful and really transformative. It's been really, really helpful for me in the thick of the chaos, in the thick of having young kids, and how exhausting and overstimulating it all is. And the thing, as I've talked to more and more moms and more friends, the thing that so often we want is to be able to be present with our kids. But the swirl of chaos and anxiety is what robs us from the present. We're not able to sink into the present and be with our kids, which is then when we hear like time flies. It does, but it probably wouldn't feel it to that degree if we could learn how to physically be present with our kids in the moment and really be able to enjoy that and take it in. So this is something that really helps with that.
Yes.
I had this thought going on when you were sharing using our senses, because one of the things that I've been trying to do in practicing this is even in the car line. So if I can feel myself at that time, like, oh, the anxiety, it's like, okay, I was trying to get all these things done, running these errands last minute. Now I've like pulled into the car line and I can feel myself like I'm parked and I'm just like, oh, my heart is racing and I'm anticipating, I'm thinking they're like, what else needs to get done as soon as we get home? And what I've been practicing more is just being able to sit there, use my senses of even just feeling the steering wheel and like the wood or the leather and just noticing it, which is one of the ways that helps me be where my body is and to sink in. And then I can feel my heart slowing down. And then recently, a few weeks ago, because my husband will travel often for work. So when I'm solo parenting and those days that I'm doing that, what I've been noticing is when I pick the kids up, I've been noticing how I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling the overwhelm of having all these things to do. So the other thing I've been trying to practice when my husband is gone is I need to having them go into their rooms for like quiet rest, playtime. And it could be I'm able to have them in there. They're a little bit older, 3 and 5. So like 20, 30 minutes. So it's a little longer. But for me, then I'm able to, like if I need to lay down, I lay down. Or if I just put on a show, I put on a show. Or just do something. And sometimes, honestly, like I've even been like, I know it's the middle of the afternoon, but I am going to take a bath because I feel so I need my body to physically calm down. And getting to have that, it's been hard. It honestly, though, like I wasn't doing that. It's taken so much intentionality.
Yes.
And even just help with my own therapist being like, okay, this is your assignment, create calming activities because your body and your nervous system needs this so bad right now. And it's helped me show up so much better when my husband's gone and it's just me with my kids, having that time. So anyways, I'm like really connecting here with what you're saying. I've been seeing that play out in my daily life, but it's trial and error, right? We have to figure out what is it that works for us and keep trying, just being willing to try.
It does take a commitment, though. It takes a commitment. You have to commit to sit, even if it's, or whatever you want to call it, the quiet, the peace. You have to commit to it. And often even, it's great that the kids, if you can get 20 minutes, that's amazing. You can not, your phone will activate your nervous system. I honestly, Instagram or whatever is going to make you anxious. So don't do that. And if you can do something like that really is good for your body or your mind, just sit in silence. Or if the kids are with you and you feel like you're not being present, one thing about little kids is they get really engrossed in very cool stuff. You know what I mean? When you're out taking a walk with them, they're like, oh, they can look at a bug for 10 minutes. Go do it with them. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Just follow their lead. If you can, stop making a list in your head of all the things that have to happen. Do you ever watch these people? They're taking their dog for the walk, and dogs like to really choose their spot where they're going to poop. They go around in circles. They take and the person's like, come on, we do that with our little kids too. Just let them do their thing and follow their lead. And then you're not trying to drag them around, right? If you're in a hurry all the time. So just to be conscious of that, like you said. Follow their lead for a change instead of you trying to lead them around. Right.
And doing that, like I love that example of going on a walk, because it doesn't have to be away from them. And I'm so glad you brought this up, because it can be with them where we practice this. And that's part of getting present. It's using our senses to notice. So if they look at a leaf or they're looking at a bug, for us to join them in that, it works a completely different part of our brain than the one that is spinning and task making and anxious.
Right.
So just taking that time, it's 1-2 minutes. I love that example because that is a very practical way when we're with our kids. Right. That is also meditation. That is also a way to activate and help us calm down. And so it's beautiful to be able to see that there's a way to do this with them and a way to regulate ourselves in the midst of being with our kids. They are not born to regulate their emotions. So it's so good.
And it's wonderful to teach them as they watch you, they're learning. Kids don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do and they watch what they enter into. So if they see you anxious all the time, they absorb that. They're like emotional sponges that up to the age of 6 until they go into schools, they're just absorbing your energy all the time. So our kids are our greatest teachers because we really want to be our best for them. And yet we think being our best means like creating these little perfect lives. That's not it at all. Like you got to be in the mess. The mess is where it's at. And you want to play in the mud with them, either figuratively or literally. You want to be able to enjoy raising your kids. So I know I would do anything for my kids, right? And once I realized they were young, they were in high school by the time I realized I'm going to lose them if I don't change the way I'm parenting. So if you learn to parent with ease and peace and that doesn't mean like suppressing your anger, because sometimes you got to blow and the kids got to hear it. So, they have to be brought to task or account or whatever. You'll balance it out. You'll figure it out. But that was my only tool that I had as they grew into young men living at the Jersey Shore, doing all the things that young boys do as a single mom. So I wish I hadn't yelled so much. And I wish I had had this kind of mind training early on when the stakes weren't quite as high, because the older your kids get, the higher the stakes get, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's true. I mean, you worry about their physical safety as little kids. You take good care of them. You feed them. But I tell people when they're babies, you wake up to take the bottle, to give them a bottle, put the bottle in their mouth. And when they're teenagers, you wake up to take a bottle out of their mouths. Like the stakes are high. Even as adult children, like the problems that will emerge when your kids are grown, you want to be able to be a resource for them and not that parent that they can't talk to. Because, mom's going to blow up. She's going to lose her mind. Dad's going to be this. Like you want to be the parent throughout, because you only have your kids for 18 years basically in your house, and then the next 50 they're still your kids. So you want to be that parent throughout the lifetime of the child. It's different for the stage of each kid, But why don't you practice when they're little so that you have, when they start doing things that are going to blow your mind, you're solid. You stay.
Yes.
You can be there. Yeah, it's true.
Yes, more of the rock that's not so easily shaken
Right.
and move.
Right.
So good. This
Yeah.
has been super helpful,
Yeah.
Phyllis. Thank you
Good.
so much
it's
for
fun.
sharing
This is
your
fun.
wisdom and insight, your experiences, because I know this is helpful for me to hear. I'm like, oh my gosh, just
Good.
so good.
Good.
And I know for any moms listening, it's going to be really helpful just for them to be like, I can do this.
Right.
This doesn't take much. I can do it. And it will really, really be transformative. It's going to help so much in how they feel and how they show up in motherhood.
Yep.
So as we close, can you just share where people can find you and even order your book, connect and learn more?
Oh, just howtobeagooddog.com. It's the easiest URL to remember in the world. I can't believe I got it, right? But if you go to howtobeagooddog.com, because the vision in my head is like a world where people are good dogs. Can you imagine if everybody was a good dog, right? So How to Be a Good Dog. You can order the book there. You can email me. You can, you fill out the contact form. You get a free chapter. So just go to the website and you can order the book and read more there. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Phyllis. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too, Jana.
Thank you. Well, if this conversation has encouraged you, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Thanks so much for listening, friend. I cannot wait to talk with you next time. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If you've been feeling stretched thin, stuck in survival mode, or like you've lost yourself in motherhood, I made something just for you. It's called the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide, and it's totally free. Inside, I walk you through simple steps to help you reconnect with who you are, find a bit more breathing room in your day, and start to feel like you again. You can grab it now. Just click the link in the show notes. You don't have to keep doing this alone. Let's take the next step together.